Hi, my name is Keri Barnum, and I am the Executive Director for New Shelves Books, and this is Free Advice Friday, the weekly chat where we get together with authors, writers, and publishers just to talk about books, publishing, and answer all your questions for free. So let's get started. We've got questions coming in over the chat today. Oh, hi, Vicki. All right. The first question here is a good one. This actually came up with me this week as well. And the question is, how do you know if your marketing copy is any good? Well, my first advice when you're trying to get your marketing copy ready is always have someone else read it. More than that, have someone else who has not read your book and who doesn't love you read it. And the reason for that is that if you have someone who has been hearing about this book for a year or two, or someone who's read the book and has been editing and proofreading with you, that person probably is a little too close to home in order to give you any good advice on the marketing copy. They may give you ideas on what could go in there, but they're not reading it with fresh eyes. And this happened this week where I read a description with fresh eyes and I said, well, you talk about this, but how did this happen? And this doesn't make sense because the author she's just been in it so long that she didn't even realize these were details that the average person would want and need to know to buy the book. So I think it's important that we find someone outside of our core group that's probably read or knows about the book in detail, and then we get them to read the description. Also, I also said find someone that doesn't love you. And the reason why is it tends to be the people closest to us are either our harshest critics or they are someone who goes, oh, it's great, it's awesome, it's fabulous, because they just love you. So it's really helpful if you find someone outside of there that you can really reach out to and ask. And if you don't know someone, ask a friend to share it with someone else. Sometimes the degree of separation is even really helpful because then that person doesn't know you, they're not trying to be nice or not offend you, they're just gonna tell you how they feel. Also, Brian Cohen does a great class on writing descriptive copy, and I can't recommend him highly enough. So that's a great way to go as well, to actually get everything flowing and get the format in place. All right, next question is from David about cover designers. David, we use cover designers from all over the world. We have some in the US, we have some abroad. Generally, what we do when we are working together with cover designers is that we are trying to find someone that works well in the genre. So I don't necessarily care where these people are located at. The important part is making sure that they have a portfolio that supports the genre. So if I'm working in historical fiction, I want to find someone who has also done a lot of work in historical fiction. They know what's trending right now, because that will be so important later on. Because if I work in sci-fi and someone asks me to do a historical fiction cover, I won't know what's trending. I won't know what's popular, what's not popular, and why. Now, I could do a lot of research and find out, but that doesn't always happen. So my best advice for a cover designer is to just go find covers that you like and see if you can find the cover designer. Many times they'll be on the copyright page, or if it's an author, you can always ask them. Or as you were finding cover designers, whether it be on 99 Designs or Fiverr, wherever it may be, or you're just Googling them, look at their covers and see if what they are doing is what you have envisioned to represent your book. But again, people all over the world, we generally work either through a program like 99 Designs or Fiverr, which has a payment system that protects both the artist and the purchaser, or we go through PayPal, something like that, where again, you have a process in place where you are protecting both parties to ensure that work is completed and the artist gets paid. All right, and the next question That's great. Okay, the next question is about editing. We've got questions coming in about editing and how many edits do you need for a book? And we actually have a guest coming on next week. We have Erica McIntyre coming on, who is an editor, so she will expand on this much more next week. But when you're doing an edit, we have the question of, do I need 3 different edits? Sometimes there's different types of editors, which again, Erica will get into next week. So join us then. She's much better versed in this topic than I am. But there are developmental editors that are really helping you form your story. They're helping you get all the details out on the page. They are helping you with the big picture. Then there is a copy edit, and that is the person who's looking for your grammar, your syntax. These are the people who are going into the nitty-gritty details, but not necessarily helping you develop your story. So maybe you don't need a developmental editor. Maybe your story is already written really well and it's solid and you don't need that. And so you skip it, and that's just fine. And so you go on to a copy edit once your book is completely finished. And as far as when you go into that, you want to do your copy edit before your formatting. Once you get your book formatted, your formatter can make changes, but it is much easier and less expensive if you can take your Word document or your Google Doc, whatever you're working in, and you are making changes with your editor back and forth there, rather than once it's a formatted PDF or InDesign. That's a pain. So make sure that you work with an editor before you get into your formatting. Then once you work with your editor, you've really polished your story and your copy, and you've got a great manuscript, go over to your formatter, get that PDF completely filled up, formatted beautifully. And then after that, if you're still kind of on the edge, I recommend a proofreader. And a proofreader is someone who is looking at your final manuscript for any errors, any missing grammar, any things, formatting changes. I mean, sometimes you go from a Word document to a formatted PDF and you'll see like it's like text, and then there's like this weird break and then text. So if that's the case, a proofreader, again, it's new eyes on the book. It's someone that hasn't been staring at it, because if you've been working on this book for a really long time, you start to second guess and change things, and does this belong here? And a new set of eyes is really helpful if you want that final check, which I highly recommend, because almost every book I've ever read or have seen put out has at least one error. I would say on average, even books put out by large publishing houses will have anywhere from 5 to 12 errors in there somewhere. So an extra set of eyes never hurts. All right, Miss Trina's saying she's headed to her first book signing. Yay! Very excited and nervous. Do you have any words of wisdom? Man, I hope people show up. Well, Trina, one of my best advice is ask people to show up. Ask people you know to show up, whether they are actually buying your book or they're just browsing the shop. I would specifically ask people that you know if they can and will show up. Because just having people around you is very helpful. I would also say show up early, especially right now, especially with everything going on. Show up early. Make sure that you have plenty of time. The last book signing that I did in person, the author had actually left a half hour early to get to the bookshop, and they ran into an accident. He was still 15 minutes late, which thankfully it worked out okay. But so make sure you plan for the unexpected. Doesn't hurt you to get there early. And also make sure that you're communicating with the store manager or whoever will be running the book signing, because that will be so helpful for you to know what their process is. If you can or need to bring anything, do you need to bring books? All of that. Second thing is, I know you're probably going to want to dress up because it's what we do, but as you're dressing up, make sure you're dressing comfortably. You may be sitting in a chair for a long time. You may be standing. So make sure that you are very comfortable in whatever you're in, and bring pens. It's surprising to me how often someone goes to a book signing and they don't have a pen that writes well, or they're asking the bookstore for a pen and things like that, which if they have it, great. But I always like to be prepared. Otherwise, just have a great time. Congratulations. I think that's so exciting for you. So let us know how it goes. All right, our next question came over by email, so I'm going to hop over here. Okay, this question is about audiobooks. So Jane has done an audiobook, and she's done an audiobook, and she's now asking how to release it. So if you've done your own audiobook, you record it on your own, you can go through ACX, which is like Amazon's, it's kind of like KDP for Amazon for audiobooks, or you can do Findaway Voices is another one. And Findaway Voices is the sister company to Draft to Digital. But the real question here is, how long does it take to get my book up once I decide to go with someone? And the answer right now is a while. A couple months ago, before all the COVID stuff, it could get up as soon as, I believe, 3 to 6 weeks. Lately, I'm hearing from people that their audiobook is taking more like 3 months to get pushed through. I think they're backed up. And it's just kind of, it's the thing right now. Printing's taking a little bit longer. Getting things approved is taking a little bit longer. So I'm hearing more and more that it's taking a while if you're using ACX or Findaway Voices to get your book live. So I would just say be patient, give your book time to go live, and then plan your launch around that. I'd rather see someone plan their launch a little bit later and have them, maybe the audiobook is out for a month before they even do their big launch and they talk about it. That's fine. It's way better than trying to plan your launch and going in too soon. And then what happens is you say, oh my gosh, I've got this launch, yay! And you've got no book. Or pushing it out and having to say, sorry guys, it's not really up yet. So always plan in advance. My feeling in publishing, especially indie publishing, is you have so much freedom to plan around your schedule, to plan in advance, to plan for error. And if your plan doesn't work, change it. So I always think that there's no emergency in publishing, as Amy Collins likes to say. And so it's free flow, better to give yourself more time. And if the plan doesn't work, rearrange it, change it to fit your schedule. There's no right or perfect time to put a book out. So if you're set right now, today on September 11th, you're set to launch your book on September 29th and you don't have a proof and you're not comfortable, push the date out now. It's okay. You get to make this schedule, which is one of the best parts about self-publishing. All right, Miss Kate is saying last week, I suggested that you keep working on your Facebook page and author platform. And Kate here is hoping to publish traditionally. And she started with, look at this, Kate, I'm so proud. Kate started the week last week after Free Advice Friday with about 4,000 followers on her Facebook page. And this morning she's got 4,384. I am so proud of you. Way to go. So she's saying, when Facebook recommends friends, I usually only friend people who have over 200 friends in common to keep out the crazies. My friends tend to be writers and poets. Is that a good method? Well, Kate, my next question is actually a little bit outside the box. Are you building your platform? And I hope you can chat. Are you building your platform through a personal Facebook, like a friend's Facebook, or are you using an author page, which is a public page? Let me know that, and maybe we can push that over a little bit and see. And for those of you who don't know, Facebook, it's confusing. People get confused all the time. Facebook has two different things that you have. You have a personal profile. This is the one where you accept and you request friends. That's the only way people can see your stuff, is if you accept and you request. and then they can see your posting on your wall. This generally is where you're talking about your vacation, your granddaughter's party, all those types of things. You're like real personal life. Then there's a public page, and a public page is, as it says, public. So anyone can see this page. It's a lot more like a website than it is a friend profile. So I always recommend that as authors and publishers are building their platform, they do a public page for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's public and anyone can see it, because no matter who they are, whether we know them, don't know them, even if they're a little bit crazy, we want them to be able to see our page, right? Because everyone who can see our page, it's just like a website. It's good. It's having different people there. So it's a good thing. Number two, having a public page separated from your private profile allows you to post all of your book, your writing, your publishing interest in things on a platform where people expect to see that. If you've got a private profile where you're talking about your granddaughter and your vacation and your dog, but then you're also talking about your book nonstop, you can have a lot of friends who start to mute you. They can start to unfollow you because they're like, oh, she's talking about her book again. If they're not interested in that and they just are interested in you because you know them personally, it can be a turnoff. So if you are posting to your public page and posting all of your book information there, then they can choose to follow you and see all your book stuff, or they can just choose to stay on your private profile and just see all the real life stuff about your real life. And that way it kind of works really well, because that's what Facebook was originally intended for, was to keep up with friends, was to connect with people. Now, if you have a really big thing happening, let's say you have a book signing or you have your new book coming out, you can always post to your page and share over to your profile. So I know it's kind of confusing because you think Facebook is Facebook, right? I'm doing Facebook. But there is a big difference between your private profile and your public page. And as an author, you need a public page. With that said, it gets more confusing. You must have a private profile in order to create a page. So keep that in mind. I know it's a little bit confusing. It sounds more confusing than it actually is, though. So if you're an author, public page. All right. Oh, and Linda's saying, how do people find your Facebook public page? Well, if you grow your public page and they like something that relates to your page somehow, it may show up in their feed and say, because you like Etsy, you may like Rick Lenz, who sells his art on Etsy. Facebook algorithms do that, paid ads do that, and then also if someone is searching. So if Rick Linda does some type of interview online and he's talking about his books and all of that, and they go on and they search Rick's name, it will pop up in the search, and it will probably pop up as two ways. You can search as people, which is that private profile you have to request to be friends, or it will show up as a page. And a page, they can just go on, they can browse around, see everything, and they can like and follow it if they wish. So it's really easy to search. Think of any celebrity, think of a band or an author that you really enjoy, go search them on Facebook, and whether or not you can find a profile for them, you most likely will be able to find a page for them, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about and how it's a public forum. All right. I help athletes improve performance and flexibility beyond coaching, stretching, and strength. What is your advice about including a discount coupon in my new book for my services? Bob, I'm going to guess that you probably work with people local. Well, that's a question. Do you work virtually or do you work locally? Are you working with people in, in other countries and cities? Does it make sense to offer a coupon that is available worldwide, or would it only make sense to offer it locally? If the answer is that you only work locally, I don't know that I'd put it in your book. What you can do is that this is what I would do. regardless of how you work or where you work, I would have something in the back of your book or the front of your book, whichever one, that says to work with me directly and get a 10% discount or whatever it may be, visit and give them a landing page. On that landing page, I would ask for their name, email, phone number, whatever you need from them. I would ask for their information and then to claim their 10% coupon or their 10% off. So number one, you're getting an email for your email list. I'd have them sign up for your newsletter, and then you're giving a discount. So this does a couple things. Not only are you getting your book out there, you are getting people over to your website, which is more exposure, and then you are actually getting their information to contact them in the future when you have other offers or books. So I don't know that I would put the coupon right in the book, but I would absolutely do some type of offer that sends them to your website for that. Now, if you only work with people locally and you don't work with them virtually, could get a little dicey because then it would only be tempting for people who are local to you. If that's the case, I would recommend that you offer something else that could be used by anyone, regardless of where they live. All right, and Kate did get back to me. She's saying she's using her profile page as a public page. And it's always about writing and the like. So here's the thing, Kate. Eventually your profile page, and here's another reason for a public author page, is eventually your profile page will not allow you to have any more friends. They'll say you reached your maximum limit. When that happens, you either have to stop growing or you have to go start creating a public page. If it were me, I would start creating that public page right now and make a slow transition to where you're posting there on that public page and sharing it over and asking people to come join you there. You know, you can say, I'm no longer posting to my, my personal profile. We have just gotten so big that we had to move to a public page. Please join me there. And leave both up for a while, but start doing your heavy posting on the public page, because that way, as you're growing something that can reach 100,000 followers. You can reach 1 million followers. The exponential growth that can happen on a public page is so important, because a public or a profile where you have to make friends and that kind of thing, it will eventually run out. I want to say it's 8,000, but I could be wrong. They could have been updated by Facebook, but it does eventually run out, and then you can't grow anymore. And then you're trying to move over later. So I'd much rather try to migrate 4,000 people than try to migrate 8,000 people. And when you set up a public page, it allows you to invite every single one of your friends to like it. And I would absolutely do that. And as they like that page, maybe you remove them from your profile. Oh, it's 5,000, Jules says. So they've actually capped it even lower now. So 5,000 friends. If you're at 4,384, you're almost at your growth cap. So I would start migrating now, which gives you about another 630 friends. My mathing is not on point. That's okay, because I'm not homeschooling, just remote schooling. But so keep that in mind, that growth will eventually stop doing it on a private profile, which is another reason to move over. I know that's a painful answer, but rather now than have problems later. All right, Randy's saying, I'm running a writing contest to generate email leads for my blog. Is there a magic bullet to gain exposure for the contest? That's a really good question. Well, Randy, and I know you're probably on here typing. So what is your incentive? What do they get from this contest? Are they getting prizes? Are they, I mean, obviously that's what a contest is, but is like, are you giving them credit? Are you going to publish their book? Are they getting a gift card? What are they getting in exchange for entering the writing contest? Because I think depending on what the incentive is can sometimes change where you would go and you would advertise. If the incentive is a $25 gift card, then I would honestly be looking into using some type of system. All right, let's see, $100 in publication on my blog and social media. So you can, I believe you can use something like Rafflecopter, which is a raffle, but to enter the raffle, people can have to send you entries and you can use it that way. Writingcontest.com, things like that, it can be okay. Because they have people who are looking for writers, so you can try that. I would just be careful that you're not investing too much in this in case you don't get the response you want and you need. I think putting it out on social media, using hashtags, finding other authors who are willing to enter and then talk about it. Maybe as they're entering the writing contest, maybe it's kind of like a double fold contest. Enter the writing contest and the winner gets $100 and a publication on your blog and social media. And then anyone who shares about it, again, use Rafflecopter, something like that, gets a smaller prize. Maybe they get a $15 Amazon gift card, or maybe they get a copy of your book, whatever it may be. That may get you more, because I'm not going to enter a writing contest. However, if I could enter to win something just by sharing it and spreading the word, I might do that. So I think you expand your audience a lot by giving more options and more availability through an extra incentive giveaway. And I think word of mouth is one of the best ways to do this, is to just get the word out, blog it, hashtag it, and ask people to share it. Let me know how it goes though. Very creative idea and I like it. All right, if a book has an extensive index, should the ebook format link each index listing to the location? How do you handle indexes in an ebook? Oh, Annette, indexes are not my favorite. If you've got an index, yes, it is so helpful if each index is linked in the, yes, link your index. I've seen indexes done several ways with ebooks. I've seen them correlate to a back end web page where people can click to go see the full format. And I've seen them right in the ebook. Definitely link it. It takes a really great formatter to get indexes right for an ebook. So I think that generally make sure that you're working with a formatter that has experience. And think of it as the reader. I think that's the best way to do it, is think of it as the reader who may be flipping back and forth. Make it as easy as possible. It's still not going to be super duper easy. You may even have the indexes and then say, for a full web edition or a printable version, maybe you send them to the website and say, you can go to the website and see all of these on a back end. That may serve you as well. But I'd rather over provide than under provide in that situation, because it can get a little tricky. So good luck with that one. That sounded sarcastic. I didn't mean it sarcastically. All right. I have set November 1st as my launch date when I submitted my ARCs for trade reviews, and ARCs are advanced reader copies. Is that date set in stone, or can I hit the publish button a few days earlier to make sure there are no glitches? So Sonia, I will say I always hit my button a couple days earlier, and there's a couple of reasons why. When you are using KDP, if you make the book live, it can take up to 72 hours. And then if you have glitches and things, yikes. So when using KDP, if you're pushing the publish button to go live, which I recommend, rather than a pre-order, sorry, that was confusing. If you are doing that, I highly recommend that you do it a couple days in advance. I've been doing it somewhere around a week in advance. It doesn't change your official pub date. It's just your release date. So I would make it about a week in advance. Even with Ingram Spark, when you're doing Ingram Spark for Ingram Wholesale, you can do a pre-sale if you want, but also if you're making the book live, no, it can take up to 48 hours for that book to show up in the Ingram system. So if you are emailing out to bookstores or libraries saying my book's now available, do it a couple days in advance, because it does take a while. And not only that, if you're using Ingram Spark, you're probably relying on Ingram Spark to help you get into places like Barnes & Noble, Walmart.com, all the big online retailers, and that takes time to sync as well. So if you want your book available in a broad way on your launch day, at least a week in advance is what I recommend. And I think that's perfectly fine, as long as your pub date is, pretty close. Now, if you said my launch date was November 1st and I want to make my book available today, I would say that's a little dicey. Like if you're telling people your pub date is November 1st because you want to be able to apply for reviews that require a 3 to 4 month lead, and then you're releasing your book way in advance, that toes the line of morality, I guess, for me. But as far as a week in advance, go for it. I think it's a smart thing to make sure that you don't have those bugs. Draft to digital, if you're doing wide ebook distribution, same thing. It can take actually more than a week to get over into some of the library systems. It takes a couple days at minimum to get over into iBooks and Kobo and all of those. So your instinct, I think, is spot on. And Randy is saying, try using Cameo to grow your Facebook page following. Many celebrities won't promote a product, but authors seem to hit a sweet spot with them. I've yet to be turned down and have grown my following by the thousands as a result. That is awesome. I'm not super familiar with Cameo, but I'm going to go check it out now. So, Randy, what is the website for that? I would love if you would share that with us so that we can see it. All right. If you've got questions, drop them in the Q&A. I'm going to go right back over to our email here. All right. Yes. All right. So the question here is categories. Categories seems to be like a super popular question lately. How much do categories matter? When you are doing categories, and let's be clear, there are BISAC categories, which are standard categories for books. This is what you use at Ingram Spark. This is what the library uses. These are the big and standard categories. When you're doing those, you can generally pick 2 to 3, and you want to pick the ones that truly widely and broadly fit your book. That's a BISAC category. But many times when people are talking about categories, what they're actually talking about is categories on Amazon, because everyone knows that we like to rank high on Amazon. It makes our SEO better. It will help us get onto bestseller lists on Amazon, which is cool to talk about. Like, there's a lot of cool things when you hit a great category on Amazon. And so we get this question about, how do I choose categories and do they really matter? And I'm going to say this. Categories matter on Amazon, again, because if you rank higher, they are showing your book more. It's on their bestseller list. It will naturally be more searchable, and you'll get better SEO on Amazon. And it's cool to talk about. And here's how much categories matter. I talked to the nicest doctor, I believe it was last week. And as he was going through and he was looking through everything, he had his categories in some really broad things. I think it was in health for his book. And his book is all about how salt affects health and how salt affects the immune system. And so his book was in health, which was really broad. But the truth is that salt affects the cardiovascular system, and that is how it affects the immune system. So I asked him and I said, Doctor, would you allow me to change one category? I just want to change one. Right now you're in health, and for health, he was at 6,800 something in his category. I said, I really think your book needs to go into cardiovascular, and I think you'll get some nice lift from that. And he said, sure, try it. Like, I'm getting the look of like, yeah, okay, go ahead and try it. We moved him from health, and we didn't even move him. We just added the cardiovascular category on Amazon. And he went from 6,800 something to 60, number 60, which is on the top 100 bestseller list for Amazon in his category. So just like that, He rose rank by over 6,000 and went from a book that probably was not searchable, was not getting any great SEO in the health category, to a top ranking book in a category that better fit his specific topic. And this is what's cool about Amazon. Amazon has hundreds of categories, guys, hundreds. Sometimes you really have to search for them, but they have so many categories. So it's important that you know your specific topic and you are looking for books in your niche, in your topic, and you're finding those categories that really, really fit your book, so that you can request that Amazon add them to your book and you can rank higher, because when you rank higher, you get better SEO. Your book is easier to find when people search for you. It's more likely to show up at the top of a search without any paid ads. And it's cool. He can now say, the doctor can now say that he has a top 100 bestseller on Amazon. He didn't sell any more books. He didn't, I mean, nothing else changed except for his category. And people ask a lot, how do you find categories? There are different programs that will help you find the hidden categories and the deep categories. A really great one is from Apex Authors. They have a rocket system that has a category search, super helpful. But the best way to find your niche category is to find books like yours. If you have a memoir, look for a memoir, but is it a memoir of a chef? Because guess what? There's a category that is, it's like a chef memoir category. Well, aren't you going to rank higher there than just general memoir? If you have a memoir about working in the mental health field, there's probably a category for that. And so when people say, how do I categorize my book and how do I reach the peak? I always say, don't fake it. Do not put your memoir that's all about being a chef into the topic of insurance or something crazy like that. You don't want that, and you're not going to be proud of that. You won't have any type of real pride in that as you're saying, yeah, I ranked here, and people are gonna be like, oh, your chef book is all about insurance, huh? That's not gonna, like, it's just not gonna fly. But find your categories and go as deep as you can. It does take a little bit of searching time. It doesn't happen super quickly, but if you niche down, I believe last time I heard in Amazon, and depends on if you go through KDP or Author Central, they sometimes give you different answers, but the last answer I got was that you can have up to 8 categories on a book. So I always aim for at least 5. Absolutely put in at least 5 so that you can rank in your categories. Stick with 1 or 2 big ones, sure, but find your niche as well, because you will do so much better there. And you'll just start to rise and you'll get that natural lift. And when Amazon starts showing your book more without you paying for ads, it's free advertising for I won't say 2 minutes. It's 2 minutes to request a category, but it's probably going to take, let's be honest, it'll probably take an hour to research your categories, but it's so worth it. So I highly recommend. Wendy, I know it used to be 10 categories. I talked to KDP yesterday and they told me 8. I don't know if it's changed or if, who knows, it's either changed or we know that this happens depending on who you get and when you get them, they give you different answers, but let's just say 8 to 10, you can have them in. Yes, Vicky, if you are looking for the rocket system, which I was just talking about, which is a set of tools, it's through Apex Authors, which is run by Jay Boyer and Blaine. Sorry, Blaine, I can't remember Blaine's last name, but it's run by Jay Boyer and Blaine. They are both amazing guys. They have a lot of knowledge and they have a cool system of tools that can help you with different things like finding reviewers and reviewers. They have a category rocket. They have like different things that are super cool. I work with them. I actually do webinars with them quite a bit. So awesome guys there. All right. And Denise, you're asking about what Randy used to grow his following, and he's using Cameo. So that is what, I'm not super familiar with it, but I'm gonna go look. So I would recommend you do as well. All right. If anyone has any questions, let's get them into the Q&A. I'm gonna see if we've got any on Facebook, but I think we're kind of wrapping up. I know it's a bit of a slow week, lots of people back to school. Look, Erica's saying she can't wait to be here next week, and we can't wait to have her. Again, Erica McIntyre is going to be with us next week. She is a writer and editor, all around a beautiful, amazing person. I'm very excited to have her here to answer all of our editing questions, because let's be honest, we all need an editor, whether or not we have a friend do it, or we pay for it, or we're using Grammarly. We all need a little bit of writing help from time to time, and some editing. And so she's going to talk to us about that. If you have questions in advance, or if you know you won't be able to make it, please send in your questions to freeadvicefridays.com. It's got an S, freeadvicefridays.com. You can send in your questions early. She will be here live answering all of our editing questions, which we are so hyped about. All right, and just one question over here. And let's see, the question over here is, I want to make graphics. I've seen graphics and I want to make them. How do I make them? So when people are talking about graphics, we are talking about something that features your book or a review. It's basically a pretty picture or an image that you can use on social media, your website, emails, what have you. What we find at New Shelves to be the most useful program is Canva. It's canva.com. And Canva is a program that has templates for social media posts and for flyers and for different things like that. They also have stock photos. I believe they have a free program, and then they have a paid program where you get access to more of their stock photos. Super easy to use. You design it right online on Canva. You upload a picture of your book cover, and then you can design things out. Very, very easy to use. And then you export whatever you create. You can then download to your computer as a JPEG, a PDF. There's lots of options. So it takes a minute to get a hang of it, but you can create templates for yourself that you can use. And I actually did that for a friend recently. I believe it was last week, as she was struggling with some social media stuff because she was putting content out. But content is great. I'm not saying it's not, but a visual image really helps to grab someone's eye. Sometimes when you've just got words, people just scroll on by, especially like Instagram. You can't post without a visual image. Facebook, visual images, videos, I mean, it grabs people's attention. If you catch yourself, I mean, aren't you looking through things more? I actually think that's why Facebook more recently made it so you can make your background a different colors, because it catches people's attention. So if you're posting your content, let's say that you got a new review from Midwest Book Review gave you a review. If you just say, oh, I got a Midwest book review, that's great. But if you make a graphic that actually quotes Midwest Book Review in a small way, and then you say it and give the whole review, you're much more likely to catch people's eye and attention so that it gets seen more. So Canva is an amazing tool for that. Highly recommend you go in there and start playing around with it. And the friend that I made a template for, she ended up using that template and she knocked out like 15 graphics. She kept the basic template and changed out the content. And she did 15 graphics that she plans to kind of space out and post between her other content. It probably took her a couple hours because she was new to Canva, but how amazing to have all of those graphics that you can create and use online. It's an awesome tool. Yes, Sonia's asking about graphics and can you talk about how to keep them on brand? Sonia, this is actually really important. When you're doing graphics and pretty much anything content-wise on social media that's visual, you will often hear people talk about keeping things on brand. Generally, that means it needs to visually look kind of the same. Now, does that mean you can only post about your book? Or if you write about horses, does that mean you can only talk about horses? No, it means that when people see this content, it should look like it belongs to you. Maybe that's a color scheme. Maybe like for new shelves, we use black, gray, there's a specific blue and a white, and that is kind of our color. So when we make graphics, we incorporate those because it immediately says to people, oh, that's new shelves. It looks like it belongs to us. Whereas if suddenly we start doing rainbow colors all over, then people might not recognize us. And as people recognize your content, if it's good and if they like it, they're more likely to stop, slow down, like it, comment, read it. So I think that when you're doing that, it's helpful if you pick a color scheme that is yours. Maybe that is rainbow. Maybe you've just got rainbow stuff. Maybe you've got, I've got a client that does orange, white, black, and gray. It doesn't have to be the only color you use, but it should be prominent. If you have a logo, watermark all your stuff with the logo so that it's a design element that everyone recognizes. Now, you can do a quote, or you can make a graphic that is literally a quote from your book. And you can also make a graphic that is just something you thought was funny. There's so many different ways to do that. But I do recommend that when you're looking at all your stuff together, it should look like it goes. It's a bit like decorating a room. Do the pillows go with the couch? They don't have to match. I mean, that's not a thing so much anymore. Or like family pictures when we all used to wear like white turtlenecks and jeans. Not so much a thing, but you do want things to coordinate and go together. And that's how your graphics and your brand should be. It should be branded with you. If you've got a website, I say put your website on just about every graphic somewhere, whether it's light, whether it stands out. Put your website so that if maybe you have this amazing pithy graphic that gets shared over and over, it goes viral. Great. If it's got your website on there, then you are getting tons of free promo. If it doesn't, if it's just this graphic that's got no branding on it, you don't get any credit. We see that all the time. If you're on social media, I'm sure you see people scrolling and you've seen something shared 100,000 times and there's no branding on it. It's just this basic graphic, which anyone can download and share. And then you lose the oomph and the opportunity. All right. Yes, and Canva has an app for the phone and it's got a website. As far as tutorials for Canva, I don't know of any off the top of my head, but YouTube is where I would go. I'd go to YouTube and I would type in Canva tutorials, or go to YouTube and type something specific, how to make a Facebook graphic in Canva, and see what pops up. And I'm willing to bet that some beautiful designer somewhere has put together something that is a step-by-step in showing you how to do things. Most of us are visual learners, so it helps us to see the process happen. So YouTube is the place for that. All right. Is it best to hold off on a launch until 2021? Will I be able to get proofs and book stock before the holidays if I release a book on November 1st? Great question. I am hearing, and from my experience, if you are trying to order books from Ingram Spark, it's taking anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks. That includes a proof. So if you have uploaded a book, let's say you upload a book today, you cannot expedite. You used to be able to expedite your printing and your shipping. Printing just is what it is right now. So if you upload your book today and you want a printed proof before you order stock, then you have to do that. You can expedite your shipping, but not your printing. And you probably will not get a proof until, I'm going to say, the beginning of October. So if you get it October and everything's great, perfect, you can order more books, you can have stock, excuse me, and you're probably okay. However, if there's a problem with your book, it could take another 3 to 4 weeks. So just keep that in mind, that it's just taking a while. KDP is going a little bit faster for sure, but still it's taking a little bit of time. Now, as for your book, if it's a November 1st launch, I always ask right there at the end of the year, does your book need to come out before the holidays? Does it make sense? Is it a holiday book? Is it a big gift giving book? Or is it a book that people are more likely to buy for themselves? Is it a book that probably won't get attention around the holidays? I had someone who wanted to release a health and weight book right around November. No one wants to read that. You know what we want to do in November? We want to eat turkey. We want to eat too much pie. And then we want to complain about, the extra 10 pounds later. We don't want to read your diet book right now. But in January, when we've all got that 10 extra pounds, that's when we want to read your book. So if your book does not need to come out in November, I would consider moving it to January, not only because of time constraints, but also because it may get more attention than depending on the type of book it is. Further than that, if you launch a book in November 2020, it's got about 2 months of being new. Then you move into 2021 and your book was published last year. Even though your book was published 2 months ago, it's considered a year old because the year has changed over. So if it makes sense, if it's gift giving, let's say maybe you've got a coloring book for kids and you think it's just going to go crazy over the Christmas selling season, so you want to get it out there for the holidays. That makes sense. But if your book is something that doesn't really lend itself to gift giving or to the holidays, consider putting it out. Because even with people buying for themselves, a lot of people do not buy things for themselves in November and December because it's gift giving season and they may have asked for it. However, in January, when everyone's got gift cards coming in from the holidays and all of that, they are more likely to buy their own books and their own products. So they may actually buy more later, depends on your book, and you have to know your book, your genre, and your audience. All right, do you have or know of a list of resources from a source you trust for services and tools that can be helpful? For example, the tip today on Cameo sounds great, but I would have never known that site exists if I hadn't been on this webinar. A list of such tools and resources would be awesome. There are, that's a big question. There are several places and people that have lists. However, most of the time what happens is they put out a list and then it changes, or new things come up. I think that following great people in the industry with their newsletters, Jane Friedman is one who puts out a lot of new resources, Sandy Beckwith, Joel Friedlander at The Book Designer. These are people who are working with authors and writers and publishers all the time. And so as they are finding new tools, just like New Shelves, they're sharing them through their newsletter. So I think that's a really good way to do it. As far as a one-stop shop list, I can't think of any. I can think of some blog posts that have gone out, but a lot of them aren't extensive. It's like the top 5 things for productivity or different aspects of it. And I'm sure you could Google that or go onto some of these respected people's sites and search it. But a one-stop shop list, I don't think so, but that's a good idea. So maybe New Shelves will have to start creating one. Yes, Rainey's saying we have a people we like list at newshelves.com, and that does have people, but that is more designers and editors and things like that. If you're looking for tools, I think that's a little bit different, but maybe we need a tools list. So good idea, Patrick. If any of you have tools that you love, if you have tools that you love for publishing that are not people, actual tools, send them to me. I'll make a list. info@newshelves.com. If you have a tool you love, send them to me and I'll make a list, and then maybe we can share it with everybody in Free Advice Fridays and combine our resources. So again, I love the collaboration. This is why I love this group, because you guys come up with stuff I never would have thought of. All right, Sonia's saying I'm also publishing on November 1st. January's divorce month, and that's when people head to the lawyer's office after the holidays. Should I stick to the November 1st date? Sonia, remind me, please, is your book about mending relationships, or is it a divorce book? If it's about mending relationships, maybe around the holidays is when we all need a little bit of that. If it is about moving through divorce, not so much. I would probably say in January. I think that a book, yeah, if it covers it all, I would say you need to honestly sit down with yourself and see if most of your audience will be people trying to mend a relationship or people who are going through divorce. If the answer is mend a relationship, then I think, I mean, the holidays are stressful for a lot of people, and I can see people going on and looking for that kind of book. If your book is going to feed in more to people who are going through divorce, I think that the holidays would be a hard time to release that type of book, because people are going to bury your posts and your information with Christmas countdowns and Black Friday deals and all the things. They don't want to think about that kind of thing. I'm not saying no one buys that kind of book. I'm saying that you may not get the lift that you want online. So January may be better. So take that for what it's worth. And then I think you have to sit down with yourself and really decide and target your audience to know who they are, and are they mending, or are they past that, and then decide from there. All right. Yes, the industry folks that I love. There are many, but let me try to think of them off the top of my head. Jane Friedman, absolutely love Jane Friedman. Sandy Beckwith is amazing as well. She's got lots of publicity type information, press and that kind of thing. We love Joel Friedlander, who is at thebookdesigner.com. Amy and I actually do articles for him as well. He is awesome. Let's see. Brian Cohen is another one. Thank you. I mean, you put me on the spot. There are so many industry professionals that we have worked with and that we love, and their newsletters, guys, are amazing. Here at New Shelves, each of us probably, we're those newsletter junkies. We probably subscribe to 10 or 15 newsletters a piece, each person who works with New Shelves, because we're just so interested. Sometimes it's things like Publishers Weekly and Shelf Awareness and IBPA, and sometimes it's actual people and companies. And so Brian Cohen, Joel Friedlander, Jane Friedman, those are the ones that just jump out at me right off the top of my head. Those are not, it's not an exclusive list by any means, but they're amazing people in the industry, and I can't recommend them highly enough. All right, and we have one final question before we have to go. How to turn a PDF into a KDP? Ed, I am wondering, do you mean turn a PDF into a Kindle book? Because if that is the question, that's totally different. KDP uses a PDF you upload. Now, if you're trying to turn your book into a Kindle book, like a Mobi file, there is a free program that Amazon offers. I believe it's something like Kindle Book Creator. And it's free from Amazon. Just know that the formatting is kind of automatic. It works. It's not always super sleek. If you are looking for ebooks to be made from your PDF, I personally love to use a designer. They just make a sleeker looking book. You can design things, you can ask for changes. I personally use Amit Day for a lot of that. I absolutely love Amit. And if you want his email address, you can go straight to newshelves.com/peoplewelike, and his name is up there. You can email me as well for that, and I'd love to recommend you guys and get you connected. He's super, super affordable. And for the time and the hassle that I would put into converting ebooks, he will make me EPUB and Mobi files 10 times better than I could ever make them. So that's one of the things. There are a lot of things that I will try to do myself or that I think people can do by themselves really easily, but ebook conversions is one of those things that, in my opinion, the cost is so low for a better product that I like to just, that's one of the things I send out for. All right, you guys, it was another great Free Advice Friday. Thank you for joining me. Next week, again, we have Erica McIntyre, and Erica is an editor. We can't wait to talk to her. If you have questions, send them in early to questions@freeadvicefridays.com. And she will be on with us live as well, so you can bring your live questions. Can't wait. We'll see you then. Have a good week.